Hi everyone and welcome back to another brand new episode of the Intuitive Psychology Podcast. I'm Jill Ritchie and I'm here with my co-host and dear friend Sarah Gregg. Sarah.
Hello.
But we have two amazing guests with us and we are so delighted that these two incredible human beings said yes to coming on the podcast. These two people are very, very special to Sarah and I. They are both master intuitive psychology coaches. They are doing the most incredible work in the world right now. And I'm going to let you hear from them a bit about who they are and their backstory. And then we're going to have the most incredible conversation. Gemma Price and Laura Milne, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you.
So nice to have you here. Let's just kind of start with yourself, Gemma. Gemma, please tell our listeners, I know that there will be people that will listen to this that know you, Gemma, but tell us about your backstory. Tell us who you are and what it was that brought you to train as an intuitive psychology coach.
Oh, okay. So I'm a CEO of a tech consultancy company, which is quite an unusual contrast, let's say, to a coach. But I've always been in that role, always been really drawn to the humans behind the tech, the humans using the tech, helping people navigate change, and just, yeah, really, it's the humans that I love. So. I have scaled that company. I founded it 6 years ago. I've scaled it and it's been a roller coaster. It's been really exciting. You know, I've never done it before. So growing a team, serving lots of clients. And I discovered IPA so randomly. I was looking for a coach myself. I was feeling a bit off. Mm-hmm. Like something in my journey, I wasn't quite aligned. It just didn't feel right. I've always been quite in tune with how I'm feeling. So I started looking for a coach for myself. And I went for lunch with my sister one day and she told me that she was being coached by somebody through Intuitive Psychology Association. And I was immediately on Instagram, like, who are these people? I want one of these. I went on that journey, had the coaching myself. It was life-changing for me. It really, I don't say that lightly, it really opened my mind, my heart. It really connected me back to who I am and what I'm meant to be doing. So fast forward a few months, here I am as a master intuitive psychology coach myself.
Amazing. I love that so much, Gemma. And we're going to dive more into a bit more from you. But Laura, again, master intuitive psychology coach now, doing incredible things in the world. What was your backstory and what brought you to train with intuitive psychology?
Oh, I never know where to start with this question. So I'm a mum of 3 girls and I kind of always struggled at school to find a way. I wasn't academic. I wasn't a high achiever. I've just really struggled to sort of find what it was. I was good at sport, good at anything physical. But I did struggle to fit in and there was just a lot. And I then developed an eating disorder and that was very controlling of my life for like 2 decades. And it resulted in IVF, miscarriages, so many health issues and mental health mainly. And so from that, I had to go through IVF. I had to go through miscarriages, all of that, because being a mum was everything to me. And then sorry, bear with me. And so after that, I sort of, during the whole losing babies and everything else, I reached out to like spirituality, and that was like trying to find some sort of connection. I connected to Rebecca Campbell, her book, The Light is the New Black, and that just brought into so much spirituality into my life. And I was hitting depression. Once I'd lost 2 children, I'd already had given birth to my first. And then just everything just started happening. And then I had twins. I was really grateful I managed to have twins, but I was still with that eating disorder. Everything was still really, through the whole breastfeeding, everything, I still had an eating disorder, addicted to exercise. My body was crumbling. My mind was just like I didn't even know how I was going to survive the next day. I kind of didn't go out the house a lot. And then slowly it just got a little bit better, a little bit easier. And then I was like, well, my body just stopped. I was on the run, my body and mind stopped. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And then that was the road to eating disorder recovery. Yeah. And then that opened up my mind just so much more. And it gave me space. It gave me space to think, what do I actually really want deep down? What is it that I want to do? So I was constantly chasing. I've been a personal trainer. I've been an event manager. I've trained in reflexology and Reiki. And it was just trying all these things. But I also knew I needed something for me. Like I've tried all the therapies. And then I've also been diagnosed ADHD and autistic. And it was listening to an ADHD podcast where I listened to Holly Matthews, and she spoke about, I then went to find out who she was. And she was an intuitive psychology coach. And then that just sort of this was last year, that came then into my life. And then I wanted to find a way. And I was at a festival, I was like, yeah, it was that week where I sort of found you. And then I had to find a way to do it. I had to find a way to join and be here. And usually I look at things all the time of coaching or different modalities of things that I want to become, but this wouldn't go away. I even unfollowed you and you kept coming up and like, because I thought this is not going to happen, but it did. And the community, everything, it just felt so good. And yeah, like Gemma said, it's completely life-changing.
Yeah.
Completely life-changing for me, that journey, and for what it's done to my clients and everything.
It's so beautiful to have this shared moment together with you both, because we both remember your application calls and the calls that we had. So I vividly remember Laura being at the festival, and I think you were voice noting or messaging over Instagram at that time. I also really remember Gemma and sharing about the case study, and remembering your starting points at how you both came in, different stories, different backgrounds, but that same shared purpose, that desire that somehow this was calling you to move forward. And it didn't quite make sense, but somehow it did. It just felt like the next natural fit. And this episode is really dedicated to becoming a coach, like in the real world, because a lot of people listening to this will perhaps feel similar to you. It will feel like this illogical pull of, I want to do it, but can I make it work? And how does it fit into my life? And can I make money from this? And how will it feel? And all of the emotions that you kind of like once felt on that journey. So it's beautiful to kind of see at this point, you haven't graduated that long ago, but Laura, you've already, you're just off the back of hosting 2 workshops at festivals, which is a beautiful synchronicity moment, given that that's what you wanted to do when you were at the festival last year. Gemma, you have secured speaking gigs on super yachts and are working to build out incredible new companies based on your own passion and purpose. But for the listeners, let's go back to the start. So Gemma, whenever you first kind of signed up with us and you decided to train, you've obviously had the experience of being coached through it. Did you have any apprehensions about becoming a coach whenever you first started?
Yeah, it wasn't on my roadmap, put it that way. It hadn't, now I realize I was always on this path. But at the time, the signposts aren't always that clear, and you have to really be in tune with what you truly want. So I'd spent a long time chasing what I thought I truly wanted. And I have no regrets. And actually, I've built a company that I still run and I'm incredibly proud of. But it had really become apparent to me that I was not thriving internally. Yeah. So around me, I was ticking all the boxes. I was getting all the awards, and I was, great. And there was an element of feeling good, but I reached a point where that no longer filled my cup in the same way. And the same achievements weren't landing in the same way as I thought they would. And it really made me question, okay, what is it? And I think then, because I went and had the coaching myself and did a lot of the deep work that really made me, it made me face uncomfortable truths about myself, and it made me shine a light on stuff that had been holding me back. that for me, as soon as I realized the power, and I'm someone that, I like to think I know myself quite well. And I built a role as a leader, and I'm an advocate for, being self-aware and reflective and bringing your whole self to work and all those things. So I'd like to think that I was doing that. And it wasn't until I had the coaching that it really made me, I remember sitting back and being like, oh, hang on, this changes things quite a bit. I hadn't realized how much stuff was going on that was actually ruling me in business. So yeah, it was actually quite a quick decision once because I'd then experienced the power of it in transforming myself. Although it hadn't been on the roadmap, I quickly made room for it. It was, I've got to do it. I know this is what I'm meant to be doing. I don't know how it works with my other company, with my company. I don't know how it works with a busy life and a family, and I'm in the tech world, and this is very different, and all the normal doubts and the fears of, do I belong in this space? Like, don't all these people identify as coaches, and who am I to be stepping in here? But I think because then I'd done a lot of the work through my own coaching experience, I could recognize what was fear and what was truth. So that, pushed me on my way.
Oh, so powerful, because, you have won awards, particularly for culture in your business. So you are a real advocate for change and authenticity, and that, that culture is so important to you. But it sounds like all of the external achievements were fantastic. And we hear this a lot from people. But what was missing was your ability to maybe even receive it on the most deepest level, and allow yourself internally to have what you had externally. And so doing the coaching and facing all of those parts of yourself allowed you to not only have the self-awareness, but the ability to go in and work with all of those parts that were perhaps in the shadows and pushed down a little bit, Gemma. Laura, I want to ask you, because again, there's so many similarities, although we all have different stories that get us here. For you, Laura, because you talked about therapy and doing all these things like Reiki and all of these wonderful modalities, and having the awareness, right? Because I remember our discovery call with you as well, and really into that space of holistic therapy and holistic healings. What was it that was missing for you, Laura, that allowed you to really step into all of the fantastic things that you're doing now? What was the change?
Acceptance of everything. Like, I always overthought of everything about my past, what I've done, and the big one is like acceptance of the unknown. Basically, like, I kept saying, like, will people believe in me? Will people trust me? I do talk too fast and muck up my words sometimes. I'm not this polished, finished coach who's going to get it perfect, and that's not who I am. And so but back before I had coaching, that was huge. That was such a fear. And I thought, I can't cope with that if people don't like me. I can't cope if I don't do a good job. What if I let my family down? Like, it was all of that. And I didn't really know exactly what was missing then. Like, I didn't know. And finding that trust. Because at the beginning of all the course, I was wanting to know everything now. I couldn't just be in this moment of acceptance of what is. And trust the process thing was really hard to accept. But actually now it's just that's what it is. That's what I needed, was acceptance of what was, what is, and what's to come. That was a game changer for me, just being allowed that. And it took me a while. I had to go into the shadows and to find that.
Yeah, acceptance is massive, Laura. And we say this a lot, this question, what would happen if I was to accept the situation exactly as it is? And that's so empowering, so self-empowering. When you went on that journey then, I want to ask you, because you talked about the shadow parts, going into those parts, like, I didn't want to face those parts of my past and what I'd done. And with that, it can feel quite traumatic. A lot of the time we don't want to look at the past, but the past is always present. What would you say is there, you know, because we have a suite of techniques that you train, and you'll know it can feel quite intense, right? But it's so important to be the embodiment of this work as a professional in this space. Laura, what would you say is, if you were to talk about a technique that, or a moment when you were being coached, because, you know, for the listeners that don't know this, as master intuitive psychology coaches, these guys are trained and they are coached. They coach people and they're also coached through the techniques. For you, Laura, what was a moment that you were like, whoa, okay, we've really hit something here. This has unearthed something for me. Was it a specific technique?
It was sort of two, and they were very close together. And I can remember it was with my peer, Sarah, and we did it in a child and a parts, very close together. And my inner child connects so much to my daughter, to me, and so incredibly emotional, incredibly. It was like obviously my past, but also my present in different ways. I could see her in me. Yeah. So that was it. And then around all of that was control. The control was my big part. And I think we probably worked on that a couple of times in different techniques. And it was about letting how I've had to control so much in my life, from being a good girl, trying to get through school. My eating disorder then took over. That was the control that made me survive. And then I suppose there's the control over my children, and being that overwhelmed mum, trying to get it all right, trying to do everything, trying to just do the best. And I couldn't let anyone else in. And if I didn't know what was going on, or they weren't happy, it was being out of control, and was such a huge, huge thing for me. But I didn't know it was control until we went into the shadows and did that. And I can remember I was on a dog walk, and it just all come into my head, and I had to voice note my coach saying, this is what happened. This is how it all connects to all the dots. And it was all the dots of me, just all everything. And yeah, it was all around that time with my coach. And then there was a mastery call that we had as well, which was really big for me. And that was what Greg called me out on things. And that was just like the biggest moment. That was huge.
I remember that. And it's uncomfortable, right? That it sounds like it is uncomfortable, but that is the turning point of change. It's bringing all of that unconscious into your awareness. And then when you've brought it in, then you can start to work with it. You know, you talked about joining the dots together, and you talk about being called out. And, you know, with love, I remember that conversation. And, you know, 100%. We always say it with love, but sometimes we need to see. We don't see it because we get so stuck in our narrative. And that's the thing with working only with the conscious mind. When, you know, it's 5%, we're just repeating the same patterns. It's on loop. And unless we really have the tools and the space and the qualifications, I guess, to really go in and hold a space for someone to go in, because inner child work is deep, right? It's very confronting, Laura, but it was what you needed to make the change.
100%. Yeah. And it was all like the thing where Sarah called me out, and the thing, it's all about me believing in myself as a coach. Like I always needed that external validation to actually, I did a good job. Whereas I always sort of knew that I was good and I could do this and I could hold this space, but I still needed that validation. And we all want to have validation that we're doing a good job, like we will, but it's less important for me now because I've got that inner knowing. And I think it's been said before, like I could never say that about myself, that I was good at something before. Like that's arrogant. That's not accepted. People won't like me if I'm like that. But actually it's just wonderful. It's amazing. It feels magic. And when I see somebody else cheering themselves on, it just feels so inspiring, and it just inspires everyone. It's just that ripple effect where it goes out, and I show it to my children and everyone around me and our peers. We've supported each other so much, and it's just been incredible. I've never known like a community like it with our peer group. And that's made all the difference.
I love that you say that, because community is at the heart of everything that we do. And we say that a lot, but I think it's really powerful for that to be reflected back. And we are heavily invested in every person's journey. And we do challenge, when we need to bring that out. And I remember saying this at your graduation, like your journey was one that we were so invested in, and to see your evolution and to watch you now really step into everything that we could see yourself to be, but to see that for yourself is just so beautiful. And we now receive messages from people who have been at your workshops,
yes,
which is incredible. We've had multiple people reach out and message us on Instagram to say, I was at Laura's, session. It was absolutely unbelievable. And these people are experienced coaches, 2 individuals who are experienced coaches who've been in the industry for a long time. And I think that's testimony to you, Laura. And I think overcoming those hurdles, like I heard you speak about, I wasn't quite good at school and, academically, and that can be blockers sometimes for people coming in because it's an accreditation. There's a psychology aspect that can make people nervous a little bit if they haven't been good at school. Like, is it too academic? Can I do it? And I think to see you really step into the embodiment of the work, you studied, you made notes, transcribed all the notes on every single module. Like, we observed every part of your journey, and Gemma's were fully invested in everybody. And to see the end, not just what you're doing, but more importantly, how you feel about what you're doing. Like you shared on social media over the weekend, your 2 daughters, your daughter and your niece, I think it was, went to the festival with you. And you talked about afterwards how they were pretending to give sessions to each other on yoga, and they were copying and they were inspired by you, and it's that ripple effect of change. So it is gorgeous. Gemma, I'd love to come back to you because I think what's really interesting is you had the experience of coaching, specifically intuitive psychology coaching, before you signed up. What was it, or was there anything that surprised you about the coaching?
Yeah, basically all of it, to be honest. It was huge. There was this one moment in particular that if I was to shine a light on, pinpoint one thing, it would be this, where, so I was feeling quite stressed and burnt out. Like I was on the treadmill of success, and I was tired. I just wanted to pause it so I could just regather my thoughts again. I was feeling at that point, this is way before I signed up to study, but I was feeling burnt out. I was feeling like I felt like I was holding everything together and everyone together, and I was buckling under the pressure, to be honest. It was starting to affect me in so many ways, as it does. Like I just couldn't switch off and relax. And I think that was then dulling the sparkle of those achievements. But when there was one session with my coach where we did working with parts technique, which remains one of my favorite techniques. And it's the first time I think I fully surrendered to allow myself to just listen to what my intuition was trying to tell me, rather than my very familiar thinking brain going, don't worry, I've got this, I'll sort it all out. And I actually, for the first time in probably years, silence that, super busy conscious mind that was just go, go, go all the time, and finally allowed my intuition to properly speak. And it came to me with this visual, like mine always communicates in really vivid imagery, and then I get a real feeling with it as well. And it just came to me like this big knotted ball of like rope, and it was completely knotted. And the second I saw it in my head, I felt it like in my gut, like this tightness, this heaviness. And then it was basically, we worked to unburden that part. But as I was communicating with it, it was just the thing that it kept shouting at me was, you just have to be strong for everyone. Stop making me be strong for everyone. I'm tired. And it was actually a part of me, a 16-year-old part of me that had got stuck in that narrative. And I consciously had no idea about this. Now it makes so much sense, but at the time it was completely new. And the way that it was able to communicate with me, this part that I never knew existed, that was ultimately, by this point, it wound itself so tight into this ball of rope that it was there all the time. And through this technique, by the end of the session, I remember it being quite a long session. There was a lot it wanted to say. So we really made the space for it. And at the end of the technique, the ropes just fell apart, and the visual was so vivid. It just fell apart and disappeared, and it just alchemized. That for me was the big turning point. And I think when I came sort of back into my normal self after that session, and I felt lighter, I felt more in control, but not in a controlling way. Like I felt more me again, like I wasn't being controlled by something else. Wow, there's something really deep going on here. How did I not know I could do that? Like, it felt like magic. I remember calling everyone and being like, you never guess what I did. And they didn't believe me. Yeah, it was amazing.
Beautiful. I feel like I was so in that story that you just shared there. I was visualizing the ball, and that's the beauty, because you weren't in a long, complex narrative. It was metaphors, it was an image, it was a sensation, it was a feeling. And to be able to just be with that rather than on a loop of what happens when we're just working with the conscious mind. So powerful, Gemma. And I want to ask, like, you guys are now master intuitive psychology coaches. We know that you're doing really great things in the world, Gemma, as is Laura, off the back of her festivals. How important is it for people to, because you said, right, I didn't know I could access, like, that was like magic. How important is it for people to be able to work with intuition in this way?
So important. And it's really, now I know it's there. And now I know the power that it has. Like, you can't unsee that, you can't unfeel that. That is so real. And so what I find at the minute, I'm going into, I'll go into meetings, business meetings about my tech business. And then I'm like, yeah, scrap that. Let's talk about intuition. Because what I'm seeing more and more is, as I talk to, and the people that I primarily work with now are leaders, entrepreneurs, businesses, groups of people who are in maybe a high performing space. And now I'm so tuned in and can see, and I've been there and can feel what they're going through. I can see how much their subconscious mind is controlling, is dictating. I can see that they're carrying this weight around with them, and knowing that I can help them, or that they can just help themselves if they just make some space. So probably the most important thing. And it's quite interesting when I have my multiple hats on, because there's not many people in tech talking about intuition. And so I would think there should be more, to be honest.
She's the woman for the job.
She is. She is more of that in the leadership space. And Laura, what about you? Like, we've referenced your work at festivals, and typically when we think about coaching, we think about it as a private practice and we have one-to-one clients. But at these festivals, you are delivering to groups, and a group of people who you don't know and you haven't met. What did you observe when you're facilitating those sessions? What happens in those group environments whenever people access their intuition?
It was a couple of weeks ago, it was my first one. And at the end, I just was crying, because it was so beautiful. The energy and seeing people, there were some people who were elated, and we did working with parts as a group. So obviously I had small amount of time, and you can't go into big trauma. You have to keep it safe. And I explained all of that to them beforehand. But there was people dancing, elated, coming up to hug me. And then there was people just sat there cuddling their partner and crying. There's some just with their eyes closed still. It affected everyone completely differently. And to have the energy in that space in nature was just wonderful. And it just raised the vibration of all of them together, going on their own journey. And there was it was a big thing. There was no judgment. Everyone just felt really at peace, safe. And yeah, it was magical to see it and witness how everyone reacted differently. Because obviously with a one-to-one client, we're looking mainly through a screen. But even that, and Gemma will say, we all know that is so powerful, and you can feel intuition and the energy just through looking through a screen. And that is imagine. And when you see them, especially one-to-one clients, see the whole aura change, the whole energy, how they hold themselves, it's just amazing. And and mums, like I work with women, mainly like mums, basically people like me when I needed the help. And they're been social conditioned on how they should be as a mum. They put so much pressure on themselves, and from most of it from like Instagram or the playground. And when they realise that they've got this inner voice and they've got that inner wisdom, it's like the whole weight of the world has gone off their shoulders, and that they can find that trust in themselves. And they're like, I've had enough. I've had enough of doing it all. I just want to be me and be coming back to who I'm meant to be. And that when you witness that and see that, it's just incredible how it changes their lives. And that's just evidence there that connecting to your intuition is just so big. It's so important. And like Gemma said, I go into Costa now and I see people, I'm like, my business card. I can see, like, I want to help you.
Yeah, I think when you're so tuned in to your intuition, it's like you're so tuned into other people, so you can really intuit. That's obviously we teach that, but also you're just intuiting for people. You're like, I can feel, I hear what they're saying, but I'm feeling something really different. And Gemma's nodding away profusely here, because you'll see that, especially in, I guess, corporate spaces, Gemma, right? Those protection of a person, to protect themselves, a persona almost, and to actually be able to hold a space to go beneath that and bring people back to essence, to authenticity, to truth. That's it. That's saying the truth will set you free. Yeah, it does, but sometimes it's uncomfortable to get there. And I think, taking this work into the world where it isn't typical coaching, we've spoke about this before. Intuitive psychology isn't typical coaching. Gemma, you'll have seen coaches in, the space. Laurie, you'll have experienced different coaches, different therapies. What makes IPA different from anything else? I'll ask you first, Gemma, and then we'll come to Laura.
I think it's just the depth. It's the fact that you can get to stuff that really opens your eyes to what's actually going on, and so quickly. Like I coached somebody last week. It was their second session, and it was the first time they've done anything like this. And I got a message the next day. I've had a massive breakthrough, I need to tell you. And that evening, after just their second session, where we went deep and there was some real intuitive insights that came to the surface, this person was able to make a real life behavioural shift on a pattern that had been playing out for years in their life, that has ultimately saved them so much challenge, so much discomfort, so much upset. And they came to me and said that is the first time ever that this hasn't spiraled into all these horrible things, because I recognised it. And that's 2 sessions in. And I think that's what sets it apart, because you get straight to the deep stuff, straight to the root. You have to go through the discomfort, but we don't make it feel bad, right? We go and say, do you want to just sit with this discomfort? And that, I think, is where the power lies.
Yeah, beautiful, Gemma. Laura, what about you?
Yeah, that gave me goosebumps just thinking about that. It's just, I can remember my first case studies. They were like, this is like nothing I've done before. Like, and I've done CBT, psychotherapy, lots of different ones, hypnotherapy as well. And it's like Gemma said, it's all about the depth of it. And what it's, because quite often it's all about getting them in to make their own, to find their inner wisdom, finding their own answers. And again, like I said before, it's all about, they've always looked externally and bringing the techniques that we've learned, how we've embodied it all. I think that's key. Like, we've embodied it all. We know what it feels like. So what we can see in them and what the words they're saying, we sort of get it. I know we've all got our own journeys. I'm looking at mums, overwhelmed. Gemma's looking at leaders. But it's the same for everyone. And we just adapt our language, I suppose. And it's, just seeing them to find their inner voice and their inner knowing is just, incredible. And it bringing the energy work in and everything else like that it's just not the same as face-to-face therapy with your eyes open, really distracted, trying to judge, see what they're doing. Are they looking at me? Have I said the wrong words? Have I said the wrong answers? Like, it's just everything. It's just everything. And like, it's nothing I've ever experienced before. And yeah, magic.
Yeah, it's deeply powerful, and it is the depth, you know, it's working with the person, like past, present and future. And I think that's an important part to note about both of your work as master intuitive psychology coaches. There is the depth, and we reference shadow and shadow work. And for anyone that's listening that maybe isn't familiar with that term, when we use the term shadow in this context, it's the shadows are what you're not consciously aware of, the things, as Gemma kind of discussed in her experience, that are ruling your life, that are tripping you up and you don't even know that are there. So it's making the unconscious conscious. And, you know, Carl Jung has this beautiful quote, and we share it in the training, you know, until we make the unconscious conscious, it will rule our life and we will call it fate. But there's also that added part of both of your work where you're working with the past, but you're also working with the future as well. You're bringing that in. Gemma's already referenced like the alchemy piece. So this episode is about becoming a coach in the real world. And we've talked about where you were before, your individual journeys, the embodiment of the work, but also the case studies. So let's just talk about that. So you're in training, and then you have a real person, not someone from your peer group, not someone from that feels safe, not in a practice environment. You have this real person that is on the other end of Zoom, who is there for you to coach. And both of you previously, you know, didn't come into this as coaches. You were new to coaching. Tell me how that felt and what your case studies experienced while you were in training. Gemma.
Yeah, I remember that well. That scary moment when you, oh gosh, I've got to actually do it now with a real person. It really, for me, that was the best part, when you can actually start using what you're learning in a safe environment. You know, they're a case study, they've signed up, they know you're training, but also you're really doing it, and they're real things that come up. You know, you can't lie from the space. When you're in your intuition, you've not got your filters up. So whatever comes up is real, and you have to navigate it in that moment and be the best that you can be for that client, to make sure that you're holding that space and you're keeping them safe, but you're also challenging them enough to go where they need to go to see the results. So yeah, I loved all of my case studies, like taking them on their journey, seeing the transformation. And I think for me, it really was the thing that anchored me into, I want to be doing this, because I could see, and not just see, I could feel the shifts in them. You know, you're really in tune with them in that moment as you're coaching them, like as they're getting their insights, you're getting them too. And it's a really, I feel so privileged to be able to hold that space when someone trusts you with that space. And so, yeah, seeing their journeys and knowing that, you know, someone said to me, oh, I've had I've had therapy at counselling for years. And you've unlocked more in 45 minutes there than in something like 8 years of counselling. And I think to hear that when you're still training as well, when you've still got the fears and the doubts, and, you know, you're still working on your own stuff, to hear the real life impact you've made, that's when it all comes together. Like the learning I really enjoyed the learning and just absorbing, so interesting, but putting it into practice, there's nothing like that.
Laura, is there anything you'd add from your experience?
Yeah, I can remember I loved it so much. I started, I think, was it 2 cases we had to have, and I just wanted more, and I had 5 in the end. And I just wanted to like do it as much as I can in this with the support. And all of us as peers would say, "Oh, this happened. What do you suggest?" And it was like really obviously keep completely confidential, but like we could all support each other. And then there was the mentors and you guys. So that gave us that confidence that we needed, that we had that back in that space. But it felt, like you said, such an honour, Gemma, to hold that space for somebody and to witness it all. And it was addictive. That's all I wanted to do. Like, I just wanted to do the videos, but I had to do the learning. But I kind of just wanted to do the case studies, because that was that was where you get the, yes, we're doing it right. Yeah, I can do this. I can really do this. And like you said, like you can really feel them. And I can remember going for a future self-visualization with a case study, then the other week she put a picture up of her holiday, and I'm like, that is what I saw in your future self visualization. Like, that is exactly it. And she's like, oh, exactly, that's what I saw too. And it was like, and we were in different places of the country over Zoom. It was just, it's just amazing to do that. And it brought everything together and to make sense.
I love that. And it's so interesting actually, because we had a message off a previous student yesterday. She messaged on Instagram to say she had worked with a case study on future self-visualization, and her case study was now on holiday, and what they'd worked towards was like healthier eating habits and goals. And the case study mentioned her to say, I'm on the plane and I just want you to know my seatbelt fits. And this is exactly what we worked on. This is exactly what I imagined in the future. And I think it is that culmination of when we're doing this work, and when clients reach out to work with either of you, it's important to know that it's not just dredging through the shadows. Like that is a big and important part, so that we can build that future from that place of deep authenticity. But the future work is of equal importance when you see those results.
Oh, I know. Definitely. I feel so like, what a privilege to sit here and speak to you both. Because I said to Sarah the other day, I was sitting on my couch and I felt so emotional, thinking, how lucky are we that we get to meet people like you and share what we know and what we've learned over the years, and then see the incredible work that you're then doing. Like, this is changing lives, guys. It's not just like, oh, I'm a coach. Like, it's so much more than that. And wow, you guys as well, like, you haven't been doing it that long, but I think it's testament to the level that you allowed yourself to go, because we can read, we can watch, but it's the embodiment. Laurie, you touched on it as well. It is the embodiment, you as a coach being the absolute embodiment of this work, and allowing yourselves to go deep and work on your shadow to be activated, so that you walk the talk. You are so equipped to hold that space. You know, some people will say, wow, your coaches, like, they're just qualified and they're doing, you know, all these amazing things. My question, like, another just question to both of you, because you haven't been doing it that long, yet you are achieving things that, like, when I've said this to Sarah before, when I did my training, it was like, and this is no disrespect, but like, there was a small handful out of about 100 people that did something with it. Like, you guys are doing what people dream of doing in 6 months, 12 months into it, and you're only a few months into it. Why do you think that is? First of all, Gemma, I'll come to you and then I'll ask Laura the same.
You know, I think it's because we've done the work on ourselves as well. Like, I know Sarah mentioned there about the future facing and the goal setting and that side of things. I think that made it really clear to me while I was training. I was so aligned with what I wanted to achieve and how I wanted to feel, that I then, I guess the techniques worked on me to then bring those techniques to others, right? So I was visualizing myself coaching, getting one-to-one coaching clients to my website, and how I'd feel when they came in, and I had my first calls with them, and running events and workshops and talks and things. So I think actually just being super clear myself, because of the coaching of what I wanted to achieve, and then also knowing, I think the depth and the variety of techniques, knowing that it's not, you know, I don't want to be like a one-trick pony and I go in and I'm just another coach doing another technique that everyone else does. I think that was another key, was just to go to know, I think it's the confidence it gives you to go out there knowing that you've got some powerful techniques. What you're doing is good, and you know that. I think that really helped me.
Great. Laura, what about you?
Yeah, so I think it's like, because it's so in depth, and there's like the neuroscience and the somatics and the breath work and the visualizations and the shadows and the inner child. There's so much that I did for myself that allowed me to just really believe that I can do this and take it, like, trust my intuition. As soon as I get that feeling, I'm like, yes, just go for it and just do it. The amount of times that at the beginning of the training, I was like, should I put something on social media? Should I do something? No, I can't. And I even cancelled some of my sessions with my peer because I was like, I just can't go deep. But now I'm just like embracing it all, I'm going for it. And yeah, it's just having that inner knowing and trust, because we've done all the work. There's so much to it. It's not, like you said, just life coaching. And it gives me that belief, and it can give our clients the belief in them, or whatever it is that we want to do. They don't want to be coached. They just want to, whatever it is, just to feel better and live life with joy. And it's giving them that rather than having to just have little goals and stuff. It's like really embodying it, and so they know, and they've got that inner wisdom and inner trust to do it. Yeah. And there's just so much more than just a coach. It's big.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. And we specialize in training exceptional coaches, and you both are exceptional coaches. You know, I think you only have to hear the results that both of you have gained from clients, from workshops. It's amazing the work that you're doing in the world. So tell us a bit more about, you know, you're at the other side, you know, you've got your master intuitive psychology coach certificates. You're now accredited to the highest level, like in the industry. You're one of just a handful of people who can do this work. What's the vision? What's the purpose? Like, what's next for you? Gemma.
So I've actually launched a couple of new businesses. So I've got, I want to take my coaching for sort of one-to-one coaching for leaders, founders, business owners. That going deep on an individual level is part of what I want to do more of, because I know these people need it. I want to help the people that were me a couple of years ago on that journey, so that they can then have that ripple effect with the people that they lead and their teams, and, you know, just collectively lift everyone up. So that's part of it. And with that, also running, you know, like leadership retreats. I'm really excited that I've got one on a super yacht early next year, where we're getting a group of just 12 leaders out to Gibraltar to do this deep work over a weekend. And I'm so excited for that. And then also with all my sort of company culture expertise and hands-on leadership experience from my other company, I was thinking, like, how do I just feel like workplaces need this as well. So not just the individuals, but also how do we get some of this wisdom? I think the fact that it is neuroscience backed means it's got the, let's say, the validity that businesses and very logical minds need. So how do I go and spread it in group settings? So looking at doing work with people in innovation and change management, people who develop other leaders, and just getting them to realize, even if it's just through talks to begin with, on what's actually going on beneath the surface, and then from there planning a few workshops and, you know, getting out into workplaces to just make people realize that they have this superpower within them, and make sure that the workplaces realize just how amazing the humans are, you know, especially in an AI driven world. I think that's going to be key.
Amazing. And what about you, Laura?
So for me, community is so key, and I feel I want to bring women together like a sisterhood. So I am starting my first women's circle locally to me, hopefully in the forest somewhere. That's coming in September, as well as I want to work with women one-to-one as well, to really just so they can start believing themselves and unlayering, removing all those social conditioning and old beliefs, and just helping them find themselves and become the person they're always meant to be. And then that ripple effects out to more people. And then bringing women together, bringing a group together. I would love to do retreats. I want to do as many festivals as I can, but I also would love to host my own festival, and that will happen. I am trusting that completely. And launching a group coaching course in the autumn as well. And just, it's about bringing women together to support each other, and then especially like ripple out to their daughters and everything else like that. I'd love to get a teenage girl circle going as well. So I'm just bringing it all together like that, with making spirituality also accessible, and because so many people put off by things like that, the word intuition, they think, oh, it's too airy fairy or woohoo, and it's not. Make it really accessible, and just building that community.
I love it. Well, ladies, you have inspired us. You inspire us every day amongst many other people in our community, and I love what you're doing. I love what you stand for. And it is that, that saying, better humans create better worlds. And by you both individually saying yes and taking personal responsibility to do your own work, that has created such significant change to the people around you. The people around you, your businesses, your life, and the people that you've served. The clients that you've helped. Never underestimate when they've come and done their work with you, how that's then gone on to change their family dynamics, their work dynamics. It is so, so powerful. And, we just want to say thank you so much for trusting us, for saying yes to the training and continuing to be such advocates of this work and a huge, huge part of our community. Yeah, even now.
A huge part. And I'm sure a lot of people listening will want to reach out and connect with you individually. Perhaps they want to receive one-to-one coaching or have a workplace offering that they'd love to bring you in on, or Laura, want to collaborate and bring that festival idea to life. You just never know. What is the best way for people to connect with you after this episode, Laura?
My Instagram is probably the best way, really. So it's .me.lauramilne is my handle, and I have a website as well. So www.lauramilne.co.uk. I would say that's the best way to get hold of me.
And you, Gemma?
Yeah. So again, my website is purposepanda.co.uk, or if I'm on Instagram, Purpose Panda Coaching. And yeah, I just love the opportunity to chat to anybody, even if it's just shared interests in this space.
Love
Absolutely.
that. We'll make sure that all of the links to connect with Laura and Gemma are in the show notes. It's been an incredible episode, and I think this is what becoming a coach in the real world really looks like, from that apprehensive decision to say yes to embodying the work and experiencing it, to having your first case study, to then bringing it out into the real world. And it's incredible what you've achieved on an individual level, the ripple effect that you've had, but I think most importantly how you now feel about the work that you're doing. That really radiates through. You can just feel the passion, feel the joy, and feel the trust. And what a thing.
I know. Thank you so much, ladies. Beautiful conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.